1 ounce of weed, half a pound of butter. Always get the best butter. You're not going to find that in the refrigerator section. Cheesecloth, so you don't get no plant matter inside of your butter. And there's my recipe. We're doing the half pound of butter with 1 ounce of weed. We got a decarb time, and it's kind of messy, but you preheat the oven at 240. Everything's going to be on a low heat. Nothing burns. And I feel that you don't have to grind your weed, but break it down a little bit, the best results. It's about 10 minutes to 11, so we'll check the decarb of the weed at 10 after 11. I've now added the half a pound of butter to this pot right here. It's a Teflon pot. You don't want the pot to get too hot. It'll just burn the butter, and you want to put enough water. And I don't know the exact measurements, but you want this to cook really slow and on low. And you want enough water in there so your butter doesn't burn. So you always keep an eye on it periodically and make sure your butter's doing good. Again, on low. It's now 11 o'clock or 10:58. I started this butter at around 10:55. Again, enough water to let it sit there on low heat for at least a couple hours. One more thing before I forget, you need the twine to tie up the cheesecloth. Make sure it's a natural, like a jute twine or something like that. Not yarn, something with a dye on it. You don't want that. Try to get something natural. Okay, it's 11:09. It'll be 10 after 11. It's time to check that smoke. There's the butter on low. And we're just looking to make sure we're not burning it. And we want to make sure, by color, that it's ready. So we'll give it another 10 minutes. 11:20. Okay, it's now been a half hour. It's 11:20. Let's check that. Check the flour. Looks like it's ready to be wrapped up. Make sure your oil doesn't boil. Excuse me, bubbling's fine, but don't let that thing boil on you, especially when the flour is wrapped up in the inside of it. You'll cook it all off. Okay, we have now put the ounce inside the cloth. And now inserting it into the butter. Still on low. I have moved this pot on and off of this fire a couple of times, but that's why you got to stay on it. You don't want that thing to boil. The time is 11:31, and that is the time I set this cloth in that butter, just to keep track of time. Okay, butter's been on a low heat for a half hour. It's 12 o'clock. We started at 11:30. Come in and check your butter periodically. Make sure it's not boiling. Okay, one more thing I did do for at least 10 to 15 minutes. I had a spatula on top of that wrap right there to keep it submerged. And now that it's pretty much all soaked up, it keeps itself under, but it just kind of helps it out a little bit. There's two things I look for when I come over here and check on this. One is I make sure it's not boiling. Two is the water level in it, because if it gets too short, too low, then the butter starts cooking and cooking off, and starts cooking off the weed that you got in there too. So a couple things to take note of when you come in to check. That's what you're checking for. And every now and then you give it a little push, squeeze it out just a little bit. Try not to break the the cheesecloth that's wrapping the weed, because then you'll just have plant matter inside of your butter. You know, you just kind of try to keep it clean. All right. It's now 2 o'clock, and I've had the weed wrapped up in cheesecloth in the butter since 11:30. I want to give it to at least 3:30 to give it a good 4-hour cook time, and we'll see what happens from there. Oh, and again, not boiling anything. That might even be a little too much bubble for me. I'm going to turn the flame down. And you can barely see it now, but it's on.